What role does gratitude play in the Christian's life?
Let's do some theology.
Welcome to the Theology in Progress podcast, where we want to grow in Christ through every conversation. Do you have doubts and questions about the Christian life? Join Chris, Brandon, and Josh as they tackle the tough issues to gain clarity, find answers, and become better disciples of Jesus Christ.
Welcome to the Theology in Progress podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Josh.
And Brandon.
And I'm Brandon.
All three of us are here.
Good
Yay.
times, good times. And it is the season of Thanksgiving. So, as you've probably guessed, we're going to be talking about Thanksgiving or gratitude, whichever one
Giving
you
thanks.
like.
So cliche.
So cliche. But it's an important topic to talk about nonetheless. And hopefully
It is.
we will put a little bit different spin on it from everything else that you'll hear out there this time of year, and get into it a little bit from a little bit unique angle. We'll try to put the Theology in Progress spin or flair on it for you. So for me though, Thanksgiving is always, well, the holiday season in general is always like one of those times where I kind of dread it. I dread going to church. And see, that's terrible because that's the time that you're supposed to go to church. But I kind of have the opposite reaction because two things happen. And this is going to sound really bad, at least one of them, right? Because you get all those other people coming to church that never ever come to church. And so then they start coming, especially, the Christmas services are bigger. But then I really feel like the sermons become so predictable. Again, kind of like our reaction with, oh, we've got to talk about Thanksgiving because it's Thanksgiving. So I don't want to do that because I'm not a big fan. I mean, those sermons are good, but they seem to be one-offs. That's really what my problem is, right? It's about gratitude. It's about Thanksgiving, like one day a year. And that's what we talk about it. And I don't want to talk about... Go ahead.
They kind of remind me of, those settings where you're sitting around the table and your family says, oh, let's all go around the table and say something that we're thankful for. And you get the really cliche responses that you could tell people just made up on the spot. They haven't really put much thought into it. Like, I'm thankful for life, and I'm thankful for the food we have, and I'm thankful for my family. And they may be thankful for those things, but at the same time, there's no gratitude in the tone that they're using. And so you can tell that they're just saying those things just to say those things.
Yep.
Every once in a while, I have some family members who will say something that they're really actually grateful for, and you can hear in their voice that it's something that they've been going through or dealing with at this time of the year anyway. And so that comes across occasionally. But yeah, the sermons every once in a while seem to be kind of like that, because you get these sermons that say, yes, you should all be thankful and give thanks to God for everything that He's done for you. Be thankful for your family, your friends, your church, and your nation, and on and on and on. And that's about it.
Yep. And while there's always value in gratitude or giving thanks, but there is far less value in giving thanks once or once a year. And that's what I really wanted to get in and talk about. What should be the role of thanksgiving or gratitude in the Christian's life every day? How should that function? And what are the effects that it can have on our life if we implement it? Because, giving thanks, we don't often even consider it a spiritual discipline. But I really think that it's one of the most important forgotten spiritual disciplines that we just overlook.
Yeah.
And so what is it? How could we implement? Well, let's before we get to implement, what do you think some ways that gratitude could look like in our everyday life rather than just one day a year? You already kind of alluded to it a little bit with when you said you can tell in a person, like one of your family members' tones, because of maybe what they were dealing with at the time. So what are some ways that we can go about implementing that every day?
I find this particularly difficult because in a lot of my private time with God, my focus tends to be, God, I want to know you more, and then my next focus after that tends to be, look at all my problems. And so for me, I know that I could really stand to incorporate more gratitude, just spending time thanking God for the little things that went on either the day before if I'm praying in the morning, or for opportunities that I know I'm going to have during that day. And they don't have to be on a big grand scale like, God, I thank you for my family and my friends and my wife. It can be for really simple things like, God, I thank you that my wife let me sit alone for 2 hours yesterday and have some alone time to kind of recharge. Little things like that, and incorporating those into my private time with God, I think would be really helpful, but I'm not always good at doing that.
And even with, like being thankful for your wife for doing something like that, I think expressing that to her, to not only to God, but to her would be, one of the best ways to really get started with this is because I feel thanks and gratefulness and all that, but like I never really express it.
Yeah.
We sit at the table and eat dinner together, and I look at my kids and my wife and the food we have, and I'm just like overwhelmed with gratefulness that we're able to, eat hot meals every day and just be together under our house that protects us from everything. You just feel so grateful, but I don't know how to express it, and I don't usually express it.
Yeah. Or to throw another kind of perspective into this, are you guys both familiar with the 5 love languages that Chapman wrote about? So I can, if I try to show gratitude to my wife for something that she's done, my top love language is physical touch, and usually I want to express gratitude in that language, which doesn't always come across as gratitude in her language, because hers is going to be more words of affirmation or gifts. And so I really have to go out of my way to make sure that I'm communicating gratitude in a way that actually communicates gratitude to her. And sometimes I think that's part of my struggle with the way that I try to show gratitude to God, because if my primary love language is physical touch, I don't have a God who's physically present with me right now that I can tangibly touch. And I can't give him a physical hug right now. And so my gratitude has to end up looking a little bit different. And I don't know, just a different perspective on communicating gratitude that I found interesting at times.
That's interesting. I wasn't even trying to get into the issue of communicating gratitude, because I think there are, like Brandon, what you were talking about, just it's really that realization that of those moments of gratitude, right? Like gratitude or thankfulness is really just another form of mindfulness, of where you're just become conscious of the things that you have and why you're grateful for them, which is, like 90% of the benefits there, then I guess, and the reason why I'm saying 90 rather than 100 is because I haven't even considered the expression of gratitude. So I think that's a really important point, especially as Christians, to demonstrate that, because from what the research and stuff that I've seen and read on this, you don't have to express gratitude to another person to enjoy the benefits of it. But I think you're right, because what that would do of expressing that gratitude to another person in a way, it would you would share it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be
Right.
multiplied just by virtue of bringing another person into that shared experience.
It's kind of like a joke. I mean, you can laugh at a joke, but it's way more fun to laugh at a joke if somebody else is laughing at it along with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but every once in a while, if you're laughing at something funny in a room with other people, your first reaction after you start laughing is to look around at other people and see who else is laughing with you,
Yep,
so that you can experience that moment together.
that's right. And we've all
And I
had
think,
those moments where we've laughed out loud and looked around and we were by ourselves, and we
yeah,
feel a little weird.
yeah, it's not the same. And so I've kind of started the more I dig into how relational we're meant to be as Christians, the more I find that everything in life that we do that can be a shared experience really helps to make us stronger Christians. So whether that's laughter, whether it's sadness, whether it's Thanksgiving, whatever it is, if we do it together, it ends up being a better experience that actually makes us stronger as a community and individually.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good.
So
point.
I think gratitude's really on the same thing. I do agree with you though. There's something about just being grateful inwardly that helps you recenter yourself on really just reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this has been one of like the things that has helped me progress in going through, especially the difficult time that I'm going through right now. But I think most of our audience is aware, that we did the daily growth journal and all that, and you can go to theologyandprogress.com and see it's a featured resource right now. But when I was doing the research for that and then trying to implement that into my life, I found out that gratitude is a choice. It's not a feeling. And we often think of it as a feeling only, right? That we have to,
Yeah.
I feel thankful. And it's true, like you have those moments of spontaneous gratitude, and those are great. And you should take note of them because, again, there's a lot of benefits into them, that come out of that. We'll link this article. And it's the season, so I've got this Forbes article that came across about the 7 scientifically proven benefits of gratitude, that will motivate you to give thanks year round. And it's true. Some amazing, amazing stuff. Like gratitude opens the door for more relationships. So, kind of what we're talking about. One of my favorites, though, is that gratitude improves physical health. Like there's literally a physiological change that happens, and we never think about those things. We understand that gratitude improves psychological health. It enhances empathy and reduces aggression. You sleep better, improves self-esteem, increases mental strength. All these benefits, and there are more. This is just 7 of them. But and those benefits are there with those spontaneous moments of gratitude. But when you choose to be grateful, that takes a whole new level of focus. And that's why I called it a spiritual discipline, because it takes discipline sometimes to wake up in the morning and to the first thing you do, it's one of the best exercises you can do, is try to count 3 things that you're thankful for, right? And move past the cliche things that we often want to say of like, oh yeah, my family or my job and, my house or whatever. Great things to be thankful for, and you should be thankful for them. They're amazing. The problem, or no, there's no problem. Maybe there is. The problem is we can kind of get stuck in that, and where gratitude training has really helped benefit me over the past few months is trying to look for the small things, right? The little things that you wouldn't consider. So like right now it's fall. I'm extremely just thankful for the weather cooling off, the leaves changing, like just the fact that the weather does what it does during this time of year, right? And how awesome God is. You know, like me and Josh, we were walking the other day and we were talking about the sun's position, and it was just, it's bright and it's beaming on us, and yet we feel no warmth from it like we do in the summer. And it's like amazing how these little tiny shifts work, and it works together, and God's got his hand on it. And so it's this, I mean, that's all one thing. And it's just like these little weird things that you can find to take note of and be grateful for them. And that sort of stuff enhances your perspective and your mood in a completely different way.
Yeah. Like, actually, I think it was on that same walk where you were talking about the just pure pleasure that you get out of stepping on a dry leaf.
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of those videos you see about those like the most satisfying video on YouTube or Facebook. Or there's something satisfying about the crunch of a leaf, and we shouldn't take those things for granted. We should. And we should allow ourselves, a lot of times, you know, I guess even something like that could be seen almost as a guilty pleasure because it's kind of weird, it's kind of quirky, or, you know, but, you know, I told you, and now I'm telling everybody that's listening, so it's not that big of a deal. But for me to at least take pleasure in that and to be grateful for it, it is a fairly significant experience, even though it might not feel like a lot. You know, it's like it's the small incremental changes that over time add up to huge differences. That's what gratitude is. The problem with this time of year is we try to reserve everything and cram it into a single day. And I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with taking a day and focusing on what we're thankful for. I love that idea. But I think the goal of this conversation is to say we need to be doing this all year round. Not eating like that though, by the way.
Yeah. There's I was trying to find it real quick while you were talking. There's a part in the Screwtape letters where Screwtape is telling Wormwood that his patient is in a really good place, good for the enemy, because he's focused on everything else around him. He's focused on all the problems and stuff like that. And the number one thing he doesn't want his patient to do is to enjoy something just for the sake of enjoying it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's in the very next letter. Wormwood gets in trouble for allowing his patient to just take a walk and read a book, because it grounded him in reality, and it was just one of those simple little things that pulled the patient back to reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And to enjoy reality. Like, you know, we've talked about plenty of times on here, you know, how we're introverted, we often get stuck in our heads. And so that's kind of my happy place. So I tend to want to retreat from reality most of the time. So if there's anybody out there that even hears like come back to reality as, ooh, why would I want to do that? You know, reality's tough sometimes. And if you're focusing on the negative things, who wants to be in reality? But that's the beauty of what gratitude does, is it makes you associate reality with the good things. Because all of life isn't bad. All of life is not bad. I mean, honestly, this is something that I struggled with for, years and years. Since I was a kid, I've always just seen kind of the negative side of life. Always focusing on the negative. So this has been hugely impactful for me to begin to look at the positive. Again, it's there. We just often ignore it. We either take it for granted or we don't care to try to find it.
Yeah. On the note of choosing to be grateful, this is something that I'm working through a lot lately, not just in gratitude, but in grace and love and several other things for the Christian life. The reality of something beyond the way I feel about it is sometimes tough for me to get a handle on. And so, like, for example, if we're talking about God's grace towards me, it's one thing for me to understand God's been gracious, He's forgiven me of my sins, and I don't have to worry about punishment for my sins anymore. Mm-hmm. It's one thing for me to just know that in my head. It's another thing for me to feel that. And so the days that I feel condemned and beat down and depressed, and I feel the reality of my sinful nature, and I try to confront that with grace, because I don't feel the grace, it makes me question the reality of grace. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to things like gratitude, I can know that God's given me good things. I can know that there's pleasure in taking a walk in a brisk day where you have to wear a hoodie. I can know that I'm grateful for being forgiven of sin and stuff like that. But to feel it, that's in my head where I really want to go and experience gratitude. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that's really tough for me in trying to maintain gratitude in everyday life, is just the challenge of being grateful when I don't feel it, because I expect my feelings to reflect reality and they don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It totally does. You know, and I would be remiss if we didn't mention this, so at least mention it, right? I mean, Scripture's chocked full with this sort of mandate to give thanks, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I've heard plenty of good sermons on that, of, right, where giving thanks isn't a feeling, it's a choice. And so Scripture commands us to do it, and so we can and we should do it.
Yeah.
Where I think, though, to get to your question, and I think a little bit more of a prescription of what this looks like in everyday life, I think the easiest way to implement gratitude is just with one's daily prayer life.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, honestly, it's just the easiest thing to do is just to begin every prayer thanking God. Or at least I like to begin because, again, you know, you can kind of get too focused on yourself and run out of time, or, you know, then get rushed and feel like, you know, and you just miss it. So, like, I just like to begin with thanking God for whatever it is. And, you know, trying to be conscious about that, because it helps you focus on Him rather than just focus on yourself. It truly does kind of get you out of your own head for a while, and you know, then you can take the problems of the day or the issues that are going on. I mean, that's the easiest. And now, you wouldn't think that this is true, but I'm not going to lie to you. The experience of journaling what you're grateful for, of just writing those simple things down, actually makes the biggest difference in the world. So whereas if gratitude and thanking God through prayer is like a 1, writing that down is like a 10.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I would challenge anybody just to try to do this like every day for a week, of just write down 2 or 3 things. I think it's important to try to do multiples, because it forces you to dig. It does. it forces you to dig deeper than what you thought, and it gets you a little uncomfortable. And it's in that place of uncomfort where you'll really grow and be able to do this better. But man, you'd be surprised at what you can come up with over a week, and then look back over it, and you feel that thankfulness every day while you're doing it. But man, the level of what you look back at that week, write it all out on a piece of paper or something, and then come back to that and see that piece of paper. Now that will produce a grateful feeling in you as well. I mean, it really is amazing. And there's no way to explain it other than you just kind of have to try it and see it. And, it will do amazing things for you.
So you're kind of saying that the more you practice just consciously knowing and being aware of the things that you're grateful for and choosing to show gratitude, the more the feelings will follow.
Yes. Yeah. It's that's perfect. That's about as well said. I mean, gratitude is a skill, just like playing basketball or any other sport or woodworking, writing, I don't care. It's a skill. And we don't think of that because we don't talk about it like that. Again, we celebrate it once a year. And then we go around the table and we say, what are you thankful for? And then we kind of come up with these, off the top of our head, big things. But there's something very profound in trying to be grateful for the little things. Like, I mean, I'm looking at you right now over Skype. Nobody else can see this, right? And I'm looking at this picture behind you of you and your wife that you had for years. I mean, and you probably take it for granted because you've seen it so many times. I mean, but what a really cool thing to just be grateful for. Every time you walk in your office, you can look at that and have that representation. So, I mean, this is literally, so if I read a list of 7 things that gratitude can do for you, psychologically help you, physically help you, mentally, all this stuff, right? Help you get better sleep, build better relationships with your wife. So you have a moment where you really focus on, I'm thankful for this poster. I write that down. I even thank God for it in my prayer time. Well, guess what? Every single time you walk in your office, how many times you walk in your office a day? 2, 3 times a day, maybe, sometimes more, maybe a little bit less. But every single time you walk in that office, you're going to glance at that. Guess what? You're going to feel that gratitude well up in you. And you're going to get benefits from that, both personally every single time. Well, then you can turn around and share that stuff with your wife. And then, you're going to want to express her love language a lot more. And in return, she'll want to express her love language to you a lot more. I mean, I can't believe, I'm glad you guys brought that up of communicating that with somebody else, because I think that's a critical component that I have not come across, but I think it's vitally, vitally important, again, especially for us as Christians called to serve others.
Yeah.
It's the gratitude enables
I think that's
that.
the one thing that gratitude, expressing gratitude, it gives purpose to that, because you can go through life in America as an individual and you'll do all right, not having to deal with other people or not having to be in deep relationships with other people. I mean, God did wire us to be that way, but you can get by and you can be quote unquote successful in America without those. You may feel empty inside, but you don't need that relational connection to make a lot of money necessarily. I mean, it helps. It helps. Anyway, I'm saying the Christian life gives more of a purpose to expressing gratitude in your everyday life, because it's all relational in the Christian life.
Exactly. Now everybody seeks that relationship, and that's why gratitude has become such a popular thing with the help, self-help gurus and stuff, which is honestly how I kind of came by it. Again, this is a Forbes article talking about it. So it's out there in the mainstream, and it's really kind of a shame that the church has lost this aspect of of our spiritual life, is that we're no longer grateful.
Yeah, I think, Paul started many of his letters, with expressing gratitude just for the people, basically that they existed and that they were part of the church now. And he wasn't just doing that for filler. That something about being grateful for somebody else, builds them up and encourages them. And like you said, it magnifies your gratefulness, being able to share it with somebody.
Yeah, excellent point.
Yeah. Or in the case of First Corinthians, it helps keep you, the person showing and expressing gratitude, on track and keeps you from wanting to just totally throttle the people that you're trying to write to and correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a really good point. You want to be angry at somebody, that's great. If you want to be angry at somebody and you're trying to figure out how to love your enemy, that's a great point right there. Try to be grateful for something. It makes it so much harder for you to react in anger.
Yeah.
And again, anger is a feeling, but gratitude's a choice. So our anger or our situations don't have to dictate what we're, whether or not we're grateful. So,
good stuff.
Anyway, let us know what you guys are grateful for, and maybe if you've practiced gratitude in your life on a frequent basis, or maybe you're just a turkey eater gratituder, whatever. I don't know. I just made that up. I will certainly be doing a lot of that here, this week after you guys hear this podcast. But so there's nothing wrong with that. I'll be doing that and having a lot of fun, spending time with family. Be grateful for it. Be grateful for all the things that we get to do during this holiday season. But I would challenge you to try to make gratitude part of your daily spiritual practice. And here's the greatest thing about it. And maybe this is why we don't even consider it a discipline, is because unlike most of the other disciplines, this one's the easiest. This takes nothing. It literally takes almost zero time to add and implement into your life, because you don't have to stop. You don't have to set aside extra time. You just have to pay a little extra attention.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Like Chris said, comment below and let us know what you're thankful for. And also wanted to let you guys know one little bit of housekeeping. This will most likely be our final episode of 2016. We're taking December off to just spend some time with our families and recollect ourselves in preparation for 2017. Really looking forward to some of the things that we have coming up. You guys have been great for sticking with us through 2016. We've seen some really great numbers so far in the first year of the podcast, and we've really enjoyed it. So in the season of Thanksgiving, we are saying thank you.
Thank you. That's right. And we're excited about 2017, so you will see us around. But this month off will be a good time for us to, like Josh said, rest, be with our families, and plan. So we had a lot of ambitions coming into 2016, and I think we accomplished about 80% of them, if not more. And we are going to be looking at things again for 2017. So excited about what the Lord will have for us next year as well. Well, guys, we will talk to you sometime coming up soon. Have a happy
See you in 2017. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Theology in Progress podcast. If you enjoyed it, give us a like and share this episode. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all our conversations. You can also support Theology in Progress through our Patreon page. $1 an episode goes a long way to make this podcast possible. If you have questions you'd like to discuss or ideas for a future conversation, we want to know. Contact us through Facebook or by emailing letstalk@theologyinprogress.com.